Hey, what is up everyone? Discussion Verse here, and in today's video, I am going over the recent sequel announcement for 2022's The Black Phone with Black Phone 2. And honestly, it's a very welcome surprise, so let's go over why this doesn't feel like a cash grab and how it's giving real Nightmare on Elm Street vibe. Before I go any further, this is a reminder to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and if you're new to the channel and enjoying the video so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button and then turn on that notification bell so you never miss a new video. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. It's important to note how The Black Phone wasn't a movie that screamed for a sequel. The original, based on Joe Hill's short story, ended up telling a tight, haunting story about Finney the grabber and that eerie disconnected phone with all the victims still haunting it. It's wrapped up beautifully, no loose ends, no cliffhangers, and that's exactly why this sequel announcement caught people off guard, including myself, but in a good way. What makes Black Phone 2 so intriguing is that, according to interviews with Scott Derrickson, who's returning to direct, is that this isn't just about milking the IP. Derrickson has gone on to say how they wouldn't have come back unless they had a story that felt necessary and worth telling. This isn't a case of slapping a number 2 on the title just to cash in. And with this came a great slew of cryptic, eerie teasers with grainy footage used much like 2022's The Black Phone. Director Scott Derrickson also touched on this film being more violent, scary, and more graphic overall. So if you have seen the cryptic teasers and that first trailer, you'll know what I mean when I say this. The vibe is very reminiscent of A Nightmare on Elm Street, but turned up to dial 11, especially in the way that the grabber is being framed by the camera, most notably in the dreamlike surreal shots, as those give off the same Freddy Krueger energy, you know, that blend of terror and strange, almost mythical menace. It looks like this sequel is leaning deeper into the supernatural side of things that were first introduced in The Black Phone, and I am so here for it. Plus, we can't forget that Ethan Hawke is returning to play the iconic grabber alongside Nathan Thames back as Finney and Madeline McGraw coming back as his sister Gwen. Also returning to the cast is Jeremy Davies, who plays their father Terrence. Plus, we know that Miguel Mora is returning as Finn's now deceased friend Robin from The Black Phone. We do have one newcomer joining the cast with Damian Bichir, though we do not know a whole lot on his character just yet. Meanwhile, Ethan Hawke has been pretty candid in talking in interviews, especially with Empire, where he mentioned how excited he was to explore new layers of his character. He's called it one of his favorite roles to play. That right there gives me hope we're not just getting a rehash of what we saw before. We also got to talk about the return of writer Joe Hill. He's talked about how the sequel aims to expand the world in unexpected ways, along with having said his inspiration to writing this sequel was based on the iconic imagery of the grabber's mask. In this sequel, it's also apparent how it looks like the grabber exists in some kind of liminal space, a full supernatural world, maybe even a dream world, but one where he still has real power. The trailer gives us glimpses of him reaching across from whatever plane he's trapped in, and it seems like he's fully capable of terrorizing, harming, and even fully killing from beyond the grave. And think back to the first film, we already saw hints of this, right? The whole story was soaked in the supernatural, as the dead kid's spirits were communicating with Finn through that black disconnected phone. The grabber heard the phone ring right before he died, like even he in his final moments was being pulled into that otherworldly space. Now in the sequel, it looks like he stayed there, and for worse, as he's using it. So what we're seeing is some kind of evolution of the grabber, as he isn't just some ghost haunting a house or a vengeful spirit tied to a specific place. He's something far more dangerous. He's learned almost how to manipulate the supernatural realm, it seems, and it looks like he's figured out how to use it to keep hunting and to keep preying on kids. What's exciting and honestly refreshing is that this isn't just being done to up the stakes in a lazy way. From what Scott Derrickson and Joe Hill have hinted at in interviews, Black Phone 2 is about expanding the mythology of this world in a way that feels organic. Derrickson said they built a story that goes deeper into the nightmare, and that phrase really sticks with me because it shows they're aiming for that dream logic terror where anything can happen and nowhere is safe. I really love how the movie features a snow-covered setting with the winter camp called Alpine Lakes in Summit County, Colorado, according to IMDb. The snowy backdrop is a significant element of the sequel as it contrasts with the Denver suburb setting of the first film, and according to director Scott Derrickson, he drew inspiration from his high school experiences at winter camps in the Rocky Mountains when crafting the sequel's atmosphere. It's worth noting how Black Phone 2 is being considered more of a horror film than the first movie, which Derrickson himself considers to be a supernatural thriller. The only other little tidbit so far that we have is Derrickson having said, quote, "They're two very different kinds of movies, as Black Phone 2 is a much more complicated script. There's a simplicity to The Black Phone, and while it's not always easy to be simple, Black Phone 2 is not that. This one has a much more complicated world and idea, and it was thrilling to not repeat the first movie. The worst kind of horror sequel is one where you try to do the same thing again, but just more of it. That goes for any sequel in any genre, frankly. So I knew I didn't want to do that, and the best sequels are the ones that surprise you. They really venture into different territory altogether and offer you a fresh experience, even though you're dealing with characters that you've grown to care about from the first film. So I definitely think a lot more more people should be excited for this movie, especially since this could have easily been a one and done movie and no one would have complained. But the Black Phone 2 sequel feels like it's shaping up to already be an instant classic and an organic continuation, not just a studio cash-in. The vibes, the imagery, and the people involved are all positive signs that this movie is actually going to be a really good horror sequel, and I for one am going to be there on day one when it comes out. With that being said, that does wrap up my thoughts here so far on Black Phone 2 and the recent trailer and teasers that were dropped for this movie. While we do not have full plot details or anything, we do know that this movie is aiming to be even more sick and twisted than the first. Of course, let me know what you guys think and if you're also excited for Black Phone 2, and do you get the same Nightmare on Elm Street vibes as I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and then turn on that notification bell so you never miss a new video. Until then, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace.